All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this live weather update streaming here from Syracuse. So I'm just several hours outside of New York City, but I did want to give an update on some of the heavy rain that is impacting New York City this evening. What you see there in the box is a forecast model, essentially what the radar looks like right now. In fact, I'm going to pull up the latest radar so we can take a look at that a little bit later and show you exactly where the heaviest rain is setting up right now. Everything's kind of playing out, according to what the plan was. Expecting some of the heaviest rain to come in generally between 6 and 10 o'clock. So we're kind of in the meat of it right now. It does look like the heaviest rain is going to set up east of New York City. So we will be taking a look at that. Let's see if I can get that set up for you guys. But we are also expecting the rain to end probably shortly after midnight, which will be, it's a pretty quick moving system here. So that'll be pretty fast. All right, let's switch over to the graphics here. And the graphics that we're looking at, first we're going to start off with the headlines. See if I can get those to pop up. Doesn't look like it is, but we'll actually switch it over to the radar. Let's take a look at the radar first and show you that right now. So there's the radar. I'm going to make that bigger for you so you can get a better look at what is happening. And I'm going to put this into motion for you. And the radar is definitely showing some of the heaviest rain east of New York City. So it's kind of tough to tell, right, where New York City is. So you got the cities there on the map. There's Manhattan, there's the Bronx, there's Staten Island, Queens, Brooklyn. So where you see the oranges and the yellows, you can clearly see that that's been a little bit more steady for areas that are actually east of New York City, so out over Long Island. And then as it crosses Long Island Sound, some of the heaviest rain is setting up over Connecticut and maybe even eventually as it moves north into Massachusetts. So that's where I think the heaviest rain is going to be. And of course, that's where the greatest threat for flash flooding is going to be as we move forward here. So right now, I would say that the flood threat in New York City is actually not quite as high as it is for, say, areas just east of New York City. And we're talking about, of course, we're talking about Long Island, and we're talking about Connecticut heading northeast of the city. So that's where I think the threat is going to be a little bit greater. Let's see if I can get those PowerPoint graphics to show up. Doesn't look like that's cooperating with me. So we're going to go back to the forecast model and show you exactly what we're expecting as we go through the evening. So that is a look at the forecast model. We move that forward a little bit here, and you can see how there's some oranges and reds. What I'll do actually is zoom in a little bit more on New York City. And here we are. This is going to be about 8 o'clock. So this is what we're coming up on. And just like we saw on the current radar, the heaviest rain is setting up pretty much in this zone, right? So that actually leaves much of New York City here just outside of the heaviest rain. By looking at that, one can assume, and I think you'd be assuming correctly, that the threat for flooding is actually a little bit lower in New York City than what we were initially thinking. So we do still have flood watches that are posted, but this may be kind of a sigh of relief a little bit. However, if you are east of New York City, heading into Long Island and Connecticut, certainly seeing some heavy rain potential there. So let's switch this over. I realize now that you weren't able to see what I was pointing at, but let's switch that over there and you can see what I was talking about. So there's the forecast model, and this is what I was indicating there, is that we are definitely seeing some of the heaviest rain setting up in the forecast model east of New York City. And as you move this forward here through the night, and this is just about 1 o'clock in the morning here. There's still some rain, but it's starting to break up a little bit. But what you do notice as you move that forward, right? Let's now rewind and then move it back forward. Where's the heaviest rain? In that sort of kidney shape there that I've drawn off to the right. And New York City sort of spared. So again, looking more and more like this will likely sort of bypass New York City at least a little bit. So let me see if I can get this PowerPoint thing to set up for you, because I do have a couple of graphics I want to show you indicating where the flood watches are currently and then where we are going here as we go forward through the rest of the night. So let's see if that will actually pop up for me. But you know how technology is. It doesn't always work when you want it to work. So we'll see. It does look like it's working now. So this is some good news. All right, let's put that up on the screen for you. Turn off the radar and turn that on. So there we are with the graphics. And we are expecting as we go through the night, turn that off as well, the rainfall is going to taper after midnight. So it looks like about 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd say by 4 o'clock in the morning, the rain is completely gone. Still looking at 1 to 3 inches of rain. I'm going to take a look in a moment to see what the Central Park gauge and also what some of the gauges around the city have been showing. So we'll show you that in a moment. But the flood threat for sure is highest for areas east of New York City. Now, as we move the graphics forward here, I do expect that the flood watches that are west of New York City could probably be, at this point, allowed to expire, because it does look like the greatest threat is absolutely setting off to the east. So it'll be interesting to see what the National Weather Service does with this as we go forward here over the next couple of hours, because I would not be surprised one bit if we see some of those watches over New Jersey allowed to expire. Let's see if I can pull up some of the latest weather alerts. There are some flood advisories in the Northeast, so we'll pop those up, and coincidentally they actually are over New Jersey, but that's mostly for smaller creeks and streams. That is not the type of flooding we were expecting as far as like flash flooding goes, the life-threatening type flooding. So I'm going to switch this back over to excuse me, the browser, so you can get a look at that. So what we're looking at here is the latest National Weather Service alerts. So you can see these, by the way, anytime you want. You can go to weather.gov. That is a great website to go to, weather.gov, and that will show you exactly what I'm looking at right now. So if you went to that website, you would see exactly what I'm showing you right here. You would see that watch and warning graphics. So this is a great website. You can go here and go right to the types of advisories there on the right, the flood advisories. But we're looking right now, you can see that right now we have Queens and Brooklyn under an advisory. And if you click in there, you can actually pull up the advisory, which is this flood advisory right here. So a flood advisory is in effect until 9:30 this evening for Queens and also Brooklyn, and then a portion of Staten Island. So we're going to put that on the screen and make it a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it. And obviously probably need to move it a little bit to the right. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Maybe if I zoom in and then move, it might work a little bit better. But anyhow, flood advisory is in effect until 9:30 this evening. Flooding is, of course, being caused by some of the excessive rainfall that we're seeing. A portion of southeastern New York, which includes the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island, is under this advisory until 9:30. Impacts is generally flooding of low-lying and poor drainage areas. And some of the locations, they name some: Flatbush, Flushing, Mott Haven, Coney Island, Rockaway Beach, Crown Heights, portions of Midtown, near LaGuardia and Kennedy airports, Forest Hills, Canarsie, Bay Ridge, and Astoria. So that is the weather advisory, the only one that we currently do have, and that is for basically most of the city right now. But what we don't have are flash flood warnings or watches, and that's some really good news, because those are the type of watches and advisories that are generally considered life-threatening, and right now we don't have any of those that are in effect, at least not currently. I'm going to switch. I think we should take a look again at the radar and just see if anything is standing out as far as maybe some heavier rain that's perhaps developing. So let's switch the source a little bit and take a look at that radar. Let's see if we can make that big for you guys as well. And there's the radar in motion. Let's get all that drawing stuff out of there. So the radar is out here, located out over Long Island. I don't know, that's a kind of did you know fact, that the radar for New York City is outside the city because, of course, if it was close to the city, it would be hitting all the buildings and you get a lot of radar noise. But look at how this is all setting up. But I do want to point out that a portion of Queens is kind of in the line of some of this heavier rain. So we zoom in a little bit more. The radar definitely looking not quite as clear as we want. Let's see if we can get a little bit more clear. So this might actually help a little bit. But what we're seeing, there's some very heavy rain out here on Long Island, from Oyster Bay to Levittown, Massapequa, Freeport, even near Oceanside, and then Long Beach over to Elmont and out over the ocean. There's another band of some heavy rain. This is all moving off to the north, so this will be affecting eastern Queens and a portion of the city. We also have a little bit of a downpour that's just passed through Jersey City, but you can clearly see just on the radar there that the really heavy rain is out well east and out over Long Island. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a short while here we see some flash flood warnings. Interesting thing that I think I should point out here, and it's sort of like pointing out the obvious in a way probably, but of course when you get these really heavy rain events over the 5 boroughs of New York City, you end up with a lot of water that is runoff because a lot of the ground is covered in concrete or roads, and so that water can't go down into the ground. So it's a little bit different as you go out over Long Island, where you don't have quite as much as we have right in the city. So that water is allowed to actually soak into the ground a little bit more than it does in the city. So that means that the amount of rain that falls, it doesn't take as much in New York City to cause flash flooding as it does out over Long Island. So that's what we're seeing, at least right now, and probably why we don't have any flash flood warnings quite yet, but I think we're probably getting to that threshold over there over Long Island. So let's talk a little bit about what happens for the rest of New York State, because of course we all can argue there's a lot more to New York State than just New York City. So let's take a look at the rest of the state. I'm going to pull up the forecast model and switch over to that here. I can tell you, just driving home from work, one of my part-time jobs, encountered some pretty heavy rain on my way in. So let's switch it over. That's the radar. Let's put the forecast model back up on the screen for you, and we are definitely seeing widespread rain across the entire Northeast, and that's what the model is showing should be the current picture. So it's looking good, at least to initialize. And then as we move forward here, this is around 8 o'clock. Still not much change. As you go to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you start to see that rain really winding down. So by 1 o'clock in the morning, out here from the Finger Lakes over through Syracuse, we're starting to dry out. 1 o'clock in the morning, it's still raining pretty heavily there in Albany, and it's sort of scattered downpours in the New York City area. So that's what we're looking at as we get to just beyond midnight. So here's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And as I mentioned, for New York City at least, it looks like most of the rain will be over with, certainly over by 4 o'clock in the morning in central New York, but still raining in the early morning hours. This is 5, 6 o'clock in the morning in Albany. So maybe the last of the rain that will be lingering will be up toward the capital region. So it'll be a little bit of a wet start to your morning for you folks in Albany and Saratoga, up toward Glens Falls and the Berkshires, as well as the Green Mountains of Vermont. But you get to 9, 10 o'clock, through the morning, the rain generally begins to taper off. Looks like there's still some rain showers lingering. So the forecast for tomorrow, a little bit of rain shower activity to start the day. You get into the afternoon and the rain's gone. So that's what we're looking at for the forecast for tomorrow, or tonight and into tomorrow, and it does look like it is going to let up. So I guess it's mostly good news is what I have to pass along. I don't think that the flash flood threat is quite what we were imagining it could be. There certainly is some heavy rain, and most likely you have you have the FDR Drive that always floods. You have certain roads that just flood. There's several of those in Brooklyn. The ones in your neighborhood that flood when it rains heavily. I promise you that they have standing water on them right now. There's been a lot of water falling from the sky, but it's not the Ida type flooding that we saw with the flash flooding and the excessive amounts of rain, getting 3 inches of rain in an hour. If you exceed an inch per hour, you get flash flooding. 3 inches per hour is almost unheard of, and it had been. That was the record in Central Park. So we're not seeing anything like that. In fact, I don't even think we're seeing an inch per hour. Let's see, actually, I'm going to pull up behind the scenes here what Central Park has reported as far as rainfall amounts to just see kind of where we're at over the last couple of hours. So pulling that up now, bear with me 1 second. It looks like actually almost an inch of rain at Central Park already, but in an hour generally has been about a 1/4 inch so far. So we are certainly not near that rainfall amount quite yet, but we're approaching an inch of rain total. But if all of that had fallen in 1 hour, I think that's where we would have been in trouble. So let's look at the New York City micronet, which is really cool. That's that kind of collaboration between UAlbany and Con Edison, where they have weather stations throughout the city, and that will give us a little bit of idea of how much rain has fallen in the city. So we've got the temperatures up right now, but I want to show 12-hour precipitation. And let's see if I can make this map. I don't know if I can make that bigger. All right, I'll show you what I'm looking at right now. So this is what I'm showing right now on my screen. You can kind of see that. Let's switch over to full screen because I think that will give you a better shot. There's a lot of advisories on there, so we're going to try to take those off there. Let's take off the radar too. So these are the rainfall amounts around the city. And you can pan around the city a little bit. So there we are, Manhattan, a little over an inch at some of the weather stations. National Weather Service station, which is the one in Central Park, looks like they're around an inch. An inch and a half over there out toward Corona and the park over there in central Queens. And then we have outdoor toward Howard Beach, about 1.71 inches of rain. Bensonhurst, an inch and a half. So these are, respectful rain amounts. Certainly a soaking rain, which is why we have the flood advisories that aren't in effect. But again, we would need all of that rain to fall in about an hour in order to see flash flooding, and I'm just not seeing that, except for out over Long Island, where rainfall amounts actually could be somewhere up there. There is a tool on the radar that is precipitation rate estimate, so 1 hour accumulation basically. And in order to get flash flooding, we probably would need about, as we mentioned, an inch of rain. So what I just pulled up, and now I'm going to show you what I'm looking at, is that over there in the corner. I know it looks a little weird. Going to make that a little bit bigger there on your screen. There it is for you. And so you see the radar site right over there. That's where the National Weather Service radar is. And then this is Long Island, Islip, Smithtown. But the green there indicates that we could see some rainfall amounts that are certainly up there around an inch or more. So, I mean, this is some very heavy rain that's falling over Long Island. So if there's going to be flash flooding, it's going to be out over Long Island, probably not in New York City. So that's basically the weather update. It's a little bit longer than I think I intended, but just wanted to give you kind of the insight on what's going on. Obviously, it's raining. Is it going to be flash flooding? That's what we're wondering. The short answer is probably not. If there is going to be flash flooding, it's going to be over portions of Connecticut, mainly eastern Connecticut, and out over Long Island. That's where the heavy rain is falling tonight. So if you're in those areas, definitely keep your phone off of silent, because the types of flash flood warnings that are life-threatening, they're categorized a little bit different. They're types that are programmed to set your phone off. So you have an emergency alert system on your phone. It's the wireless emergency alert system. And if that goes off, that's serious flooding. So you definitely want to seek higher ground, which means get out of your basement. Not a good place to be. And if you happen to live near a creek or a stream that floods, maybe head up to the second floor. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hope that you found this useful in some way. Hope you're all having a great evening. And yeah, I'll see you around. Make sure you check out the weather app, by the way. If you haven't downloaded it yet, it's got some recent upgrades that I'm really proud of. So go to the App Store on your iPhone or the Google Play Store on your Android and just search for Weather with Eric. There's also an opportunity, if you love these weather updates, to buy me a coffee. So you can do that too. You can find links in the app for that. And Of course, I would absolutely love it if you signed up for my weather subscription. A lot of folks every day are making it part of their morning routine. It's simple, it's fun, and you learn something. There's a did you know, and you're going to learn more than you ever thought you'd want to be learning every single morning. So thank you guys for joining. I will see you around. I'm going to go work on tomorrow's weather update, and I hope you